Well, hi there, Taylor with Prep Talk. I wanted to pick up on our Katrina saga here. In the last video I mentioned we had picked up this young soldier who had been stranded on the road by the name of Alvin, and we're now headed toward Jackson, hoping we could find some supplies. One little note that I wanted to mention, that while we were on our trek to Jackson, we were able to make some contact with our family. I had actually, as we had left the New Orleans area and were heading north to Meridian, I had actually been able to reach out to my wife and let her know that we were relocating because of the hurricane and not to worry about that. But after the hurricane hit, we weren't able to make any contact. I guess all the cell towers were down, or there was issues because of the power outage or whatever. And we weren't able to make contact. And I know that because my family knew that my son and I were out in that area, they were watching the news broadcasts about the damage in the New Orleans, in the Louisiana and Mississippi areas with the hurricane. And I'm sure they were concerned, and we were frustrated that we weren't able to communicate with them. Luckily, as we were driving to Jackson, we kept trying to send a text. And fortunately, we were able to get one or two texts through. I was able to text my daughter. It finally went through, and I was able to let her know that we were okay, that we were going to be fine, and that we'd get back with them as soon as we had better chance to have communication lines open to us. I can't stress enough how important that communication is on both ends, whether it be on the end of the individual who is experiencing some difficulties or the end of family members that are wondering what's going on and are they okay. And it really makes sense that now, before something devastating happens, to make some plans, whether it be, if it's something that's dramatic where you might need to have access to a satellite phone or a ham radio or some other means of communicating, to make sure that you can let one another know that everything is all right. Absolutely critical. It made all the difference in the world knowing that we were finally able to communicate with our family there. Well, so as I mentioned, as we rounded the bend into the Jackson area, it was totally dark. I mean, you couldn't even tell there was a city there, but Mabel was telling us that there was a city there. And so I remember we pulled to the side of the road and just trying to search around. What could we do? And we decided to let Mabel take us in an area of the city that maybe there could be something, but no luck. As we drove closer to the center of the city, all of a sudden, off in a distance, we could see a little bit of a glow of lights, because now it was basically full on dark. It was nighttime now, and we could see a glow. And so, oh my gosh, there's power over there. So we closed the laptop and thanked Mabel, but we were going to go just by sight this time, and we drove to where the light was, and it was the strangest thing, because here in the middle of downtown Jackson, there were about 2 city blocks that were fully illuminated. The buildings all had power. The street lights were on, the traffic lights were working, and unbelievably so, one of the buildings that had power was a hotel. And so what we did is we quickly pulled over and jumped out of the rig, and I told Alvin to grab your duffel bag, and we went in and found that things were quite in disarray in there, and went to the front reservations desk and said, can we get a room? And fortunately they had a room. We were able to get a room for our buddy Alvin and put him up, let him know that tomorrow he would be able to call AAA or somebody to go get his vehicle and bring it in and get it repaired so he could be on his way. And he was so relieved. But we were all hungry, and we wanted something to eat. And so we asked them, do you have any restaurant or anything? And they go, oh yeah, we have a restaurant. I said, great. What kind is it? Is it open? And they said, well, sure. It's just a regular buffet. And so they pointed where it was. We went over to the restaurant, and the gal that was standing there by the restaurant said, are you sure you want to come in? Or what do you mean, are we sure? She says, you may want to go look at the buffet first. So we thought, okay. So we walked in, looked at the buffet, and it was unbelievable. It looked like a troop of hungry Boy Scouts had just gone through and ravaged the whole area because most of the stuff was gone and there was food all over the place. It was a mess, but there was still some food there. And we came back and we said, well, you know what? We still need to get some food. We'll go ahead. So I asked her, how much is it? And she charged me full price, for crying out loud. I, to this day, can't believe she had the guts to do that. And so I reached in my wallet and I pulled out, a credit card. She said, well, I'm sorry, our credit card thing isn't working right now. I'm going, oh, geez. And so luckily, I had just enough cash left in my wallet to pay for 3 meals at this this buffet that was less than desirable. And so Alvin and my son and I went in there and we tanked up. We ate as much as we could and tried to scavenge as much food as we could there from the buffet. And once we felt like we had finally, had enough to eat, we decided that it was time to say our goodbyes and that we needed to head out because we needed to get back and figure out another game plan. So we swapped email addresses and talked about how we hope we'd be able to stay in contact and wished him the absolute best. And then right before we were leaving, I asked the gal at the reservation desk, I said, so, we're like out of cash. Is there an ATM or something that you have here or close by where we could get some cash? She said, oh, sure, there's one right across the street. And so I went across the street and it was still illuminated there. And so I put my card in there and waited and waited and waited. And it kept my card for like 10 minutes. And then finally spit it out and said it couldn't do the transaction. I'm going, great. Now the system's down where I can't even get cash. And all of a sudden we thought, oh my gosh, we're in big trouble. We've got to have cash because nobody's going to be able to take our cards. So we jumped in our big town car and we drove around the block and started heading back the way we came. And as we were around on the other side of the block, just out of the corner of my eye, I said, TJ, stop. And I looked over there and recessed back in, kind of against the building, was another ATM. I said, I'm going to try that one. So I hopped out of the car and I ran back to the ATM, slid in my card, and within 60 seconds, I had $200 cash in my hand. And oh my gosh, what a difference that made. Totally unbelievable that one particular ATM worked and gave us the money that we needed. And all of a sudden we felt a little bit more confident now of our ability to somehow in the next day or two escape this area. So on the next video, I'll tell you some miraculous things that happened as we headed back towards Meridian. Till then, thanks.